Alright, I'm going to try this again. So what's up, YouTube? Thanks for watching. This is the video. We're going to talk about this situation with Bob Iger, and also I'm going to talk a little bit about Ron Perlman and a few of those things, a few things that are going on. So that's my goat in the background, one of my goats. And so basically earlier this week, Bob Iger mentioned or suggested that the reason that Marvel, and specifically Marvel, is not doing so well right now is because of something called superhero fatigue. And I guess you could say the same for all of the Disney IPs, like Lucasfilm as well. Oh, it's just superhero fatigue. And of course, like, that's just bullshit. There's no such thing. If you produce a good product, people are going to consume that product, no matter how many of those products you have produced. So for you know, it's just how it is. I mean, like, people are not gonna, if you love something, you're not going to have fatigue of it. That's not the problem. We all know what the problem is. But basically, the reason he has to say this, and the reason there's always just some bullshit, is because this is a bureaucratic process. So if you're familiar with, if you've ever worked in most office settings, or you've ever worked in a bureaucracy kind of type setting, you know that, like, when somebody screws up, like, there's always an excuse. It's never anybody's fault. There's always going to be some excuse, some stupid ass reason, and 9 times out of 10, nothing's really going to be solved. Like, the best thing that you can hope for is that the screw up will not be repeated. But we've actually seen the screw up be repeated, like, multiple times, so many times with Disney. So you have to wonder, like, what is the end game here? Like, what is the real reason? Why do they keep doing this? Well, I did hear a theory earlier this week, and it basically suggested that the reason is because Bob Iger wants to devalue Disney, so to make Disney easier to sell. I don't know if there's any truth to that, but of course there has been so many rumors of Disney selling to Apple, Disney selling this IP, that IP, you know, who knows what's going to happen, who cares. I think that Disney, one of the problems with Disney is their IPs are undermanaged. There's too many subsidiaries. It's too big. If you've seen the movie Howl's Moving Castle, Howl's Castle is like this huge rambling junk house that's constantly, like, falling apart and breaking down and collapsing under its own weight, and that's sort of Disney right now. Now, so whether there's any truth to that theory, who knows? Like, who knows? Only time will tell. But the fact of the matter is, we don't live in a world like we used to. I saw a short, and it was a part of an interview with Kathleen Kennedy, and she was talking about how back in the day when they were trying to get off the ground with the movie Twister, they basically were able to get a blank check simply by showing a clip of the tornado destroying a truck, and, you know, so, and that made the people so excited that they wrote the blank check and they were able to make the movie Twister. Well, we don't live in the year 1996 anymore, so we don't have to wait, you know, a week to find out whether or not a movie is good. We really don't. We know before the movie even comes out whether it's going to be good due to leaks, and then the day it comes out, we know the whole plot. Information travels very, very quickly. So we're in the consumerist society we live in, we're not consuming garbage. Call it what you want, boycotts or whatever. It's basically, it's nothing to do with politics. It's really more to do with people just don't want to consume garbage. There's nothing that can compel them, whether they're on the left or the right, to consume things that are unenjoyable, patronizing, and that sort of thing. The studio executives must understand this. Surely they must know this. That's what we want to believe. Like, but who knows? They could be sitting around in their ivory towers, jerking themselves off about racists and bigots and this and that. You know, who knows? Like, anything could be the truth at this point. But there was an article in Variety very recently, I think on the 13th, and it was talking about Bob Iger, who had made some comments about the strike and about how the demands from the unions were unreasonable. He believed that they were unreasonable. And I don't disagree with him. I really don't. And I have very little compassion for writers and for creatives these days, even though I'm actually a writer myself. I've self-published 5 books, and I'll dive a little bit more into that. So the article itself was in Variety magazine, and it talks about in great detail about Iger's position and his argument with the unions and this and that. And then at the end they have to reiterate, because like this is a really great example of the left eating their own. At the end of the article they have to reiterate, but just remember, you know, Bob Iger, he's the one fighting the right-wing extremists. He's fighting the Nazis, you know, in Florida, all this and that. They have to remind you that even though Bob Iger is the bad guy, he's actually the good guy. And I thought that was really interesting coming from Variety, because Google is coming from a different place. I searched Google earlier today, and you know how Google will have these frequently asked questions or frequently searched things, and one of them, and of course it's all bullshit, I believe they create these things because they want, it's just like a psyop. And so like one of the first things was, is Bob Iger a Republican? So they basically are wanting to introduce this idea that Bob Iger is an evil right-wing extremist. That's coming next, I promise you guys. They sort of try to do the same thing with Chapek. But anyway, so, but of course he's not. He's no right-wing extremist by any means, but he did switch for his party affiliation from Democrat to Independent. I don't think it matters anymore. I believe in the Uniparty personally, so I mean, even if he registered as a Republican, that wouldn't convince me that he was a conservative or that he actually cared about preserving the legacy of the various IPs being managed by Disney, especially Star Wars, especially Marvel, or the parks or anything like that. So I thought it was interesting though, like, so you have to understand when it comes to Variety though, the Variety magazine is owned by a group called Penske, and the CEO of Penske is a guy named George Grober, and he actually used to work for Disney. So of course you're gonna see like a lot of pro Disney stuff, pro Bob Iger and that, because Bob Iger used to be his boss. And it just goes to show you it's a really small world. Or as George Carlin said, it's a club. It's a small club or it's a big club. You're not in it. None of us are in it. And so today, or maybe it was yesterday, I don't know, the funniest thing happened, and that was that Ron Perlman basically released this video that basically said he was going to burn Bob Iger's house down. And, well, not that he would go and burn Bob Iger's house down, but that we would go and burn Bob Iger's house down for him. And I just kind of find it humorous. I can't help but find it kind of laughable. For 10 years now, the left has gatekept every creative industry. Like, we all know that unless you have the right beliefs, unless you virtue signal the right things, like, you have no future in any creative industry. You're not going to get grants. You're not going to get recognition. You're not going to sell books. You're not going to be working in any industries if you're open about your beliefs and your beliefs aren't the right beliefs. And we all know what the right beliefs are. So I think it's really interesting and funny that they think now that we're supposed to care that the bloated, corrupt system that the left has propped up for 10 years for no gain other than, you know, internet good boy points, because they sure as hell most of them didn't get rich. They're not in the club either. Like, we're supposed to give a shit. We're supposed to be sad and go up in arms that they're getting replaced by robots. And I just can't find it in myself, even as a creator, even as a writer. I like to write comics. I like to draw comics. I'm an artist, but I don't ever expect to make any money with this. And I do expect that AI will take over. And I just don't think there's like any way to stop it. In fact, I think in some ways we should embrace it and look forward to it, because I mean, we'll just see how it goes. But you know, after 10 years of leftist gatekeeping, it's really funny to me that Ron Perlman, and by the way, you should really look into Ron Perlman. There's a reason why the thumbnail for this video has him and Bob enjoying pizza. People like Ron Perlman and magazines like Variety want to sort of draw these lines and reinforce these opinions. And I think it's just a really funny example of the left eating their own, the bloated bureaucratic nonsense collapsing under its own weight, and just very, very interesting. So who knows what will happen. It's fascinating to watch, but honestly, it doesn't matter at this point. Like, it really doesn't. We have had some fantastic films. We've had some fantastic TV shows. They're never going to be able to take those away from us. And it's fine to not consume every single little thing in a franchise. Like, if you like Star Wars, that doesn't mean you have to like every single thing that's ever been produced with the word Star Wars on it. And I think that's where people like Bob Iger get confused. And I think that's also where a lot of leftists get confused. And people in general just get confused. Like, I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I think that's pretty evident. But do I like every Star Wars thing that was ever produced? No. I find High Republic stuff to be like so boring. Like, if I couldn't sleep and I had insomnia, I would go buy a High Republic book because that'd probably do it for me. I didn't care for Rebels. There's a lot of Star Wars stuff, modern Star Wars stuff. I didn't love every episode of The Mandalorian. I certainly didn't love every minute of Book of Boba Fett. I could barely tolerate Obi-Wan Kenobi. So, but it's fine. Does that mean that I don't like Star Wars? Does that mean that I have disavowed Star Wars? No, but I'm not going to consume products that I don't care for. Like, it is what it is. So I just won't go see them. I just won't watch those shows. I just won't buy the action figures of those shows. I just won't support those shows. It has nothing to do with superhero fatigue or franchise fatigue. It's just like, I don't need garbage. I don't need to buy garbage. If it wasn't made for me, I don't need it. And that's the thing. We constantly ask ourselves, when people constantly ask themselves on YouTube, like, what are these properties made for? Are these properties made for middle-aged cat women? You know, who's purchasing this? Because it's not things that appeal to children. It's not things that appeal to hardly anybody. And in fact, it seems a lot of times like people only pretend to like these things because it's a way for them to virtue signal that they have the right opinions, that they're good people. I like this, liking this makes you a good person. That's not how consumerism works. The only thing you can consume that makes you a good person, I think, is like the word of Christ. So, but we live in a society where they've managed to convince us that, like, somehow it will make you a good person if you just, like, consume the right things. If you can, or, you know, all this and that. And I think they were surprised. I really do. Like, people like Kathleen Kennedy, or at least they act surprised, that it just doesn't work like that in reality. The people don't just want to go and consume garbage just because it exists. We're not gonna, of course there are a few fans out there that have to have every single little thing that comes out. They have to have every single action figure. They have to consume every single show. And if they don't, like, they're missing out or whatever. I think those people are insane and insufferable. And I refuse to be one, but there's such a tiny number. Like, there's so few of them. So who cares? Like, who's worried about that? And if Ron Perlman wants to go burn down somebody's house, maybe he should start with his own. You know, it just is what it is. And is Bob Iger a good guy? Hell no. Hell no, he's not a good guy. Neither was Chapek, even though I think Chapek was a better guy. None of these people are good guys. So it's laughable that they think, especially in a post-COVID society, that we're just gonna be so heartbroken that a bunch of asshole writers and creators are, you know, gonna get replaced by robots. I hope the robots at least write good shows. You know, I have to say, I've seen a lot of robot stuff. a lot of AI stuff, a lot of AI art, and I found it inspiring. Like, for example, go look up the Pixar Alien. Like, if Pixar had made the movie Alien, or if Alien was a musical, that sort of thing. It's freaking inspiring. It's like, wow, this is great. And of course it's propaganda. Of course they're going to release stuff like that to get us excited. But it is exciting. It is fun. It is fun to see what if Wes Anderson directed Lord of the Rings and that sort of thing. It is interesting to think about movies starring actors who have passed, because we can recreate them using AI and that sort of thing. It is interesting to think about what we could produce financially in the film industry if we didn't have to pay Robert Downey Jr., $100 bajillion to play Iron Man. It's very fascinating to think about this. And so I guess we're just going to have to see what happens. That's just some of my random ass opinions. And my next video will be my random ass opinions about Bad Batch Season 3. So I have some predictions for Bad Batch Season 3. I'll probably have more to say about this ongoing situation with the writer's strike. And so please like and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.